All right, let's throw out a couple bubble players here for Browns training camp. Scott, who do you have on the bubble?
I'm going to go with the wide receivers. You have, I think, a group of 4 receivers that you're pretty confident are the core guys. You know, you have Odell, you have Jarvis Landry, you have Antonio Callaway, Rashard Higgins, I think, is in that group. After that, you're not really sure how that's going to shake out. You have a pretty big group. I think players like Damon Ratley and Derek Willis, who we saw last year kind of step in when they had injuries, when they had to get people on the field. So they got some experience, but they were kind of missing in action a little bit during off-season workouts. So we're not really sure where they're at or how they're going to fit in with the rotation. I think those guys are going into camp with some question marks, and we'll kind of see who shakes out.
And Mary Kay, what makes that group so interesting is you've got this mix of a guy like Damian Ratley, who's a draft pick last year, but then you also have some undrafted guys. It's just a really interesting mix of players that aren't really guaranteed anything.
Yeah, and I would have to say out of that group, the Dorian Bakers and the Ishmael Hymans are the ones that are really going to have to come in and try to overtake Damian Ratley and Derek Willis, because I think right now, after the first wave, those 2 guys are probably in the best position to make the team.
And something I'll keep in mind too is Willis is a great example of this. He didn't necessarily have a great training camp and preseason last year, but the Browns kept him because he's fast, because he's big. So sometimes those physical traits too can be enough for a guy to make a roster, even over a guy that produces during the preseason. A guy that I'm keeping an eye on, he was sort of on the bubble last year. He ended up surviving and sticking around the whole year, but I wonder what's going to happen with Seth DeValve. They've got, of course, David Njoku. Orson Charles is a fullback / tight end. You know, they brought in another guy from Kansas City that I know they really like. So, you know, I'm worried. I wonder what's going to happen with Seth DeValve, who dealt with that injury last year and managed to make the roster. Is he going to be able to do that again? Yeah,
I mean, he's really going to have a really nice camp, and he's going to have to demonstrate that he can kind of do it all. But if he can go out there and catch passes and really be consistent, I still think he'll have a good chance to make the team.
It seems like it's coming down to him and Demetrius Harris. I think you saw a lot of sets with Njoku and Harris on the field at the same time with that first team, and DeValve was kind of pretty consistently with the second team during off-season workouts. But you know, we'll see if that means he's that third guy.
And Harris kind of sliding into that Darren Fells role of being sort of your blocking tight end. And if Njoku shows that he's better there, maybe that's good news for Seth DeValve if they feel like they can trust Njoku to kind of handle that role, that he might kind of have a say in all of this as it goes along. So some bubble players to watch. You tell us who you think is on the bubble going into training camp down in the comments.